In this example, we're going to learn to divide decimals with repeating decimal quotients. So that means that our answer is going to be a repeating decimal where the decimal never ends. It has that repeating property that goes on to infinity. So notice in this question already, we have quotient to the nearest tenth and hundredth because we're going to have to round our answer. Okay, so for these problems, long division is the number one method. You can't use the other method that we discussed in the last video. You pretty much have to use long division. So just like in the last example, we'd make the second number a whole number, but in this case 7 is already a whole number. So we want to divide 3 by 7 and get a decimal approximation. So 3 divided by 7. Okay. And again, be very careful. A lot of people want to put the 7 under here because it's bigger. Okay, but remember, this means 3 divided by 7. 3 is the dividend, the number we're dividing, and 7 is the divisor. If you think about dividing 3 by 7, you're going to get a number less than 1. So here's what we do. Okay, we already don't, 7 doesn't go into 3, or it goes in 0 times. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our decimal ready, and there are as many zeros here as you want there to be. Now I'm going to put 3 zeros here. Okay, and the reason I'm putting 3 is because I noticed that in the answer we want to round to the nearest tenth and the nearest hundredth, and to round to 2 decimal places you need to look at the third decimal place to decide whether to round up or round down. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 3 zeros there, and I'm going to divide until I get a result up here. So 7 goes into 3 0 times, then we're crossing over the decimal. I already put that there. And now 7 goes into 30. Well, 7 times 4 is 28, so I'm going to put a 4 up here. Subtract 28. 30 minus 28, so again I'm kind of ignoring the decimal here, is 2. Bring down the next 0, and I like to write arrows when I bring down the 0, or there's so many up there you forget which ones you've used and which ones you haven't. So now I know I've used this one. 7 goes into 20 2 times, because 7 times 2 is 14. Now I'll subtract. 20 minus 14 is 6. Bring down that last 0. 7 goes into 68 times. And 8 times 7 is 56. And now I have 4. And notice this decimal did not terminate. I could put a whole bunch of zeros here and keep dividing, and I would literally do that forever. So, but we know that we are going to round. So let's think about, let's write this number here, 0.428. Okay. And round it to the nearest tenth. We'd look at the tenths place. The digit to the right of the tens place is less than 5, so we'd round down. So we just drop these and we don't add 1. So we have 0.4. So there are approximately 4 tenths of a 7, of a copy of 7 in 3. Now the nearest hundredth, 0.428. We want to round to the hundredths place. Looking at the digit to the right, it's greater than 5, so we're going to add 1 to this digit and drop the rest. So to the nearest hundredth, it's 0.43 hundredths, or 43 hundredths. Okay. Let's look at the next one. So notice, again, we're using the same digits, and again, it's so we can look at patterns. We have 3 divided by 0.7. Okay, so again, we want to make the divisor, the second number, a whole number before we use long division. So I'm going to rewrite this a little bit bigger. Leave a little space. 3 divided by 0.7. Well, to make the divisor a whole number, I'd have to move it one place. So I also have to move the dividend one place. So this is equivalent to 30 divided by 7. So now we can set up the long division. We're dividing 30 by 7. And it's always good to approximate. So 7 times 4 is 28. That's what we're going to use first. So this is about 4. So we'll start by dividing 7 into 30. We get 4. We subtract 28. We have 2. It's not terminating. So now at this point, we need to bring down more zeros. So I'm going to put in the decimal. I'm going to put it here and here. And again, I'm going to add 3 zeros, and the reason I'm adding 3 is to get to the nearest hundredth, I'll need to go out to the thousandth. Now, this division is going to look very similar to what we just did. Bring down the 0, 7 goes into 20 twice. That's in the tens place. Then we have 6. Bring down the next 0. 7 goes into 68 times. So this number should look familiar. Minus 56. But here we're going one more step. Bring down the 0. 7 goes into 45 times. And that's 35. We have 5. It's not terminating. Okay. So now we are going to round this to the nearest tenth and hundredth. So for the nearest tenth, we have 4.285. We're looking at the tenths place. The digit to the right is larger than 5, so we're going to round this to 4.3. Add 1 to the 2, get rid of the next 2 numbers. So that's to the nearest tenth. Now to round to the nearest hundredth, we're going to look at the hundredths place. The digit to the right is 5 or greater, so we're going to add 1 to the 8, 4.29, and drop the last place. So to the nearest tenth, we have 4.3, and to the nearest hundredth, we have 4.29. Okay. So notice dividing the 30 by 7 looked very similar to dividing 3 by 7. It just shifted where the decimal place was. So the decimal place was one place value to the left in the previous example, so we actually had to do less division to get out to the tenths and hundredths place. So here's another one, 3 tenths divided by 7 hundredths. Let's set this up. I want to move this 2 places, so I need to move this 2 places. So this is equivalent to 30 divided by 7. Okay. So 3 tenths divided by 7 hundredths is the same as 30 divided by 7. So notice this is the equivalent, exactly equivalent to the same problem we did last time. So let's flip back. When we rewrote it, we got 30 divided by 7. Okay. So we're not going to do the long division again because we've already done it. So we're going to take this opportunity. We'll write the long division, but to see how we can do this on our calculator. Okay, so long division is one of those things that you need to know just in case you need to use it. So honestly, for this problem, I would even do this on a calculator, but I can do it by hand and I understand the process. So kind of like when you're on the plane and they tell you the safety precautions, you need to know it, but you hope you don't have to actually use it. Okay, so let's do this on the calculator. We're going to look at 0.3 divided by 0.07. And this, the beginning of this should look familiar because this is what we did in the last problem. We went out to 4.285. So I can write this as 4.285. Okay. And let's just double check that that's equivalent to 30 divided by 7. And notice we get the same exact result. And it's nice to look at the calculator because we can see how it's repeating. The repeating part is we have 285,714, 285,714, and notice it's going to repeat that forever and ever. So that's why this is a repeating decimal, and that's why we're rounding our answers. So to the nearest tenth, again, looking at the hundredths, we round up 4.3. And to the nearest hundredth, look at the thousands place, round up 4.29.